The spaceship landed on the silver ground of Prime, and Morgan stepped out into a world she had only seen in pictures. She was 17 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, and eyes that watched everything around her with careful attention. She carried one bag over her shoulder, and she looked very small standing next to the alien buildings that rose up like mountains of glass and metal. The Galactic Combat Academy was the most famous fighting school in the known universe. For 1,000 years, warriors from hundreds of different species had come here to learn the art of the blade. Kings sent their children here. Generals trained here. The greatest fighters in history had walked these same halls that was about to enter. And she was the first human to ever be accepted. A tall alien walked toward her. He was called, and he belonged to a species called the. His skin was covered in purple scales, and he had 4 arms instead of 2. He stood 7 feet tall and looked down at the way a person might look at a small bug. "You are the human," he said. His voice was deep and cold. "My name is," she told him. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Names do not matter here until you earn them. I am instructor. The academy has asked me to see if you can even hold a sword. Many people believe that letting a human enter this school was a mistake." Did not argue with him. She simply followed as he led her through the academy's great doors. Inside, the halls were filled with students from species had never seen before. Some had wings, some had 6 legs, some were covered in fur, and others had skin like stone. All of them were bigger than her, and all of them stared as she walked past. She heard whispers in languages she did not understand, but she could guess what they were saying. They were wondering why such a small, weak creature had been allowed into their school. Brought her to a large training room where dozens of students were practicing with swords. Watched them carefully. She noticed something strange right away. Every single student, no matter how many arms they had, was fighting with only one weapon. "You are looking at something," said. "They all use one sword," replied, "even the ones with 4 arms or 6 arms." Nodded as if she had said something very stupid. "Of course, this is the universal combat doctrine. It has been proven over 10,000 years of study that one weapon is always better than 2. The mind cannot control 2 weapons at the same time. It is simply not possible for any species." "What about dual wielding?" asked, "using 2 swords at once?" Several students nearby stopped their practice to look at her. His face showed something like pity mixed with amusement. "No species can dual wield effectively," he said slowly, as if talking to a child. "The brain cannot do it. Scientists have tested this on hundreds of species. The coordination needed is beyond what any living creature can achieve. Even they who have 6 arms fight with one blade. This is not opinion. This is fact." Nodded and said nothing more, but deep inside her mind, she was thinking about her father. Daniel Morgan had run a small sword school in Montana, back on Earth. He had taught to fight since she was 3 years old. He had studied every sword style that humans had ever created, from Japanese katana techniques to Filipino stick fighting to European methods. And he had taught something that these aliens apparently did not know. Humans had been fighting with 2 weapons for thousands of years. Great warriors had mastered the art of using 2 swords at once. Filipino martial artists had built entire fighting systems around holding a blade in each hand. It was not impossible. For humans, it was natural. But kept this knowledge to herself. She had learned from her father that the best fighters did not boast. They waited, they watched, they learned. Her first weeks at the academy were very hard. She was smaller than everyone else. She was weaker than everyone else. The instructors taught her the same forms they taught all beginning students, and she learned them without complaint. She practiced with a single sword, just as everyone expected her to do. Her roommate was a named Senna. There were bird-like creatures with feathered arms that could also serve as wings. Senna had golden eyes and a kind heart, and she was one of the few students who did not treat like an unwanted guest. Do not feel bad about how the others act, Senna told her one night. They do not hate humans. They just do not believe your species belongs here. Earth has only been traveling through space for 200 years. Most students come from civilizations that have existed for millions of years. Does being old make them better fighters? Asked. Senna thought about this. It makes them very sure about what is possible and what is impossible. Smiled at this answer, but did not explain why. Every night after the other students went to sleep, would sneak out of her room. She had found an old maintenance area deep in the lower levels of the academy, a place where no one ever went. There, alone in the darkness, she trained the way her father had taught her. She practiced with 2 swords, then she practiced with 3. The third sword was the hardest part. She held it between her teeth, gripping the handle with her jaw while her hands controlled the other 2 blades. It was a technique she had seen in an old animated show from Japan, a story about a pirate swordsman who used 3 blades at once. Her father had laughed when she first tried it, but then he had helped her train until she could actually make it work. It hurt. Her jaw ached constantly from holding the weight of the blade. Her arms burned from trying to coordinate 3 different weapons at the same time. Some nights she failed so badly that she wanted to quit. But did not quit. She was human, and humans did not accept that things were impossible. They never had. When someone told a human that something could not be done, that human would find a way to do it anyway. This stubbornness had brought humanity to the stars in only 200 years. It had made them one of the fastest-growing species in the galaxy. And it would make Morgan into something the universe had never seen before. Month after month, she maintained her secret. During the day, she was an average student, never the best but never the worst. At night, she became something else entirely. She pushed her body beyond its limits. She trained her brain to track 3 weapons at once, to see attacks coming from every direction, to move in ways that the galactic combat experts said no creature could move. The Academy had told her that dual-wielding was impossible. She would show them that they were wrong. 9 months had passed since first arrived at the Academy, and most of the other students had forgotten about her. The human girl was no longer interesting to them. She was just another average student who practiced the same forms as everyone else and never did anything special. This was exactly what wanted. During the day, she trained with her single sword and listened carefully to every lesson. She learned about footwork and timing and how to read an opponent's movements. She studied the fighting styles of dozens of different species. She memorized the strengths and weaknesses of warriors and blade dancers and the powerful masters who had dominated galactic combat for centuries. At night, she continued her secret training. Her 3-sword style was improving faster now. Her jaw had grown strong enough to hold the blade without pain. Her arms could move independently, each sword following its own path while her mind tracked all 3 at once. She had discovered that her human brain was different from alien brains in ways the scientists had never studied. Humans could do 2 different things with their 2 hands at the same time. They could drum different rhythms, type on keyboards without looking, juggle multiple objects in the air. This bilateral coordination, as her father had called it, was a gift that Earth's evolution had given to humanity. The aliens had never tested humans for dual-wielding ability because humans were too new to the galaxy. They had simply assumed that what was true for every other species would also be true for these small newcomers from a young planet. They were about to learn how wrong that assumption was. A great event happened at the Academy near the end of first year. Grand Master arrived to teach a special class for the senior students. Was one of the 6-armed species that were considered the finest natural warriors in the galaxy. He was over 900 years old and had been fighting since before human civilization even existed. Many people believed he was the greatest blade master alive. When he spoke, everyone listened. Was not invited to his classes. She was only a junior student and a human besides. but she watched from the observation gallery above the training hall, studying every movement the old master made. The blade is an extension of yourself, taught the senior students. One blade, one focus, one killing intention. This is the way of the unified strike. It has been the foundation of combat excellence since before your ancestors learned to build cities. He demonstrated his technique, and had to admit it was beautiful. His 6 arms worked together in perfect harmony, all of them guiding a single sword through patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The blade moved so fast it became a blur, then a wall of steel, then a single perfect point aimed at an imaginary enemy's heart. To divide your attention is to invite death, the Grand Master continued. A warrior who tries to use 2 weapons becomes 2 half-warriors instead of 1 complete one. His focus splits. His power weakens. This is why no species, no matter how many arms they have, ever fights with multiple weapons. The mathematics of combat simply do not allow it. One of the senior students, a named As, raised his feathered arm. Grand Master, some old stories say that primitive species once used multiple weapons. Is there any truth to these tales? Made a dismissive gesture with 3 of his arms. Young species sometimes experiment with foolish ideas before they learn better. They think that more weapons means more power, but they quickly discover the truth. The unified style is superior in every way. There are no exceptions to this rule. There never have been, and there never will be. Watching from above kept her face completely still, but inside she felt a fire burning. The greatest living blade master had just declared that what she was doing every night was impossible. She would prove him wrong. The weeks passed and continued her double life. Her public training remained average. Her secret training grew more intense. She added new elements to her 3-sword style, combining techniques from every human martial art her father had taught her. She learned to attack high and low at the same time. She practiced defensive patterns that covered every angle of her body. She developed ways to move that made her small size an advantage instead of a weakness. Senna noticed that her human roommate was changing, had grown leaner and stronger. Her movements had become smoother, more confident. There was something different in her eyes now, a quiet certainty that had not been there before. "You are hiding something," Senna said one evening. Looked at her friend. "What makes you think that?" "Because I watch you. Your public training is good but not special. Yet somehow you are becoming faster and stronger than your practice should allow. You move differently now, like a predator pretending to be prey." Was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, "Can you keep a secret?" "From everyone." "From everyone." Senna's golden eyes gleamed with curiosity. "Yes." That night brought her roommate to the abandoned maintenance bay. She took out her 3 swords and showed Senna what she had been doing in the darkness for almost a year. Senna watched in complete silence as moved through her forms. 3 blades spinning and cutting, attacking and defending, creating patterns of steel that should not have been possible. When finally stopped, both of them were breathing hard, though only had been moving. "This cannot be real," Senna whispered. "The Grand Master himself says this is impossible." "The Grand Master has never seen a human fight," replied. "Not really. He has seen humans use the unified style that everyone teaches, but he has never seen what humans can do when they fight their own way." "Why are you hiding this ability? If you showed the instructors what you can do." "They would try to stop me," said. "They would say I am doing something dangerous and wrong. They would make me train the normal way. I cannot let that happen, not until the right moment." "What is the right moment?" Smiled. "The tournament of blades is in 2 months. Every student in the academy can enter. The fights are broadcast across the entire galaxy. If I show what I can do there in front of billions of witnesses, they cannot pretend it did not happen. They cannot hide it or explain it away. The whole universe will see that everything they believed about combat was wrong." Senna stared at her human friend with new understanding. You are not just trying to win a tournament, you are trying to change everything. I am trying to show the galaxy what humans can do, said. We are new here. Everyone thinks we are weak and primitive. They let me into this academy as a joke, a diplomatic gesture to make Earth feel important. But humans are not weak. We are just different. And it is time for the universe to learn that. The two friends stood in the darkness of the maintenance bay, surrounded by forgotten machines and dust. Above them, the stars of the galaxy shone through a cracked viewport. I will help you, Senna said finally. I will keep your secret, and when the tournament comes, I will be there to watch you change the world. Reached out and gripped her friend's feathered arm. Thank you, Senna. This means more than you know. 2 months remained until the Tournament of Blades. Had a lot of work to do. The Tournament of Blades was the biggest event at the Galactic Combat Academy. Once every year, students from all levels came together to fight for glory and honor. The winner would receive the title of Blade Supreme and earn the right to train at any military school in the known galaxy. Important people from hundreds of worlds came to watch in person. Billions more watched through holographic broadcasts that reached every corner of civilized space. Registered her name for the tournament without telling anyone except Senna. When the bracket was posted on the academy walls, her name appeared at the very bottom. She had been matched against a named in the first round. Was 3 times her size. He had 4 arms and purple scales that could stop a weak blade strike. He had been training at the academy for 15 years and had 12 of practice matches. No one expected the small human girl to survive more than a few seconds against him. The night before the tournament, sat in her room and looked at the bracket. Senna sat beside her, saying nothing. Everyone thinks I will lose tomorrow, said quietly. Everyone has thought many wrong things about you, Senna replied. Smiled at this. She thought about her father back on Earth, who had trained her since she could walk. She thought about the long nights in the maintenance bay, pushing her body beyond its limits. She thought about every time an instructor had looked at her with pity, every time another student had laughed at the weak little human. Tomorrow, everything would change. The tournament began under the great dome of the Academy's arena. The morning light came through the glass ceiling and fell on the sand of the fighting floor. Thousands of spectators filled the seats, their voices creating a roar of noise that echoed off the walls. Holographic cameras floated in the air, capturing everything for the billions watching across the galaxy. Grand Master sat in the place of honor, his 6 arms resting on the arms of his chair. The old had come to watch his finest student, Os, win the tournament as everyone expected. He barely glanced at the early matches, where lesser students fought for the right to advance. His match was scheduled for the afternoon. She spent the morning watching the other fights, studying how each warrior moved. The combat was impressive. Every fighter used the unified style, guiding a single blade with perfect technique. Victory and defeat were decided by tiny differences in speed and position. When her name was called, walked onto the arena floor carrying a bag over her shoulder. This was unusual. Normally, students chose their weapons from the Academy's collection. They did not bring their own. Was already waiting in the center of the arena. His 4 arms hung at his sides and his yellow eyes watched with amusement. He held a traditional, its edge glowing faintly with energy. Little human, he rumbled, I will try to end this quickly so you do not suffer too long. Set down her bag. The crowd grew quiet as she reached inside and pulled out not 1 sword, but 3. 2 long katanas of Japanese design and 1 shorter wakizashi. She took a katana in each hand. Then she placed the handle of the wakizashi between her teeth and gripped it with her jaw. The arena fell completely silent. Every eye, both in person and across the galaxy, was fixed on the small human girl holding 3 swords. Stared at her, what is this foolishness? The referee, a tall instructor, stepped forward with confusion on his face. Multi-weapon combat is not taught anywhere in the curriculum. This is most unusual. But it is not forbidden, said, her words slightly changed by the blade in her mouth. I have read the tournament rules. A fighter may use any weapon or weapons they choose, as long as they are not mechanical enhancements. My swords are simple steel. The referee looked at the judges. The judges looked at Grand Master. The old had leaned forward in his seat, his 4 eyes wide with interest. Allow it, commanded. Let us see what the human thinks she can do. Laughed, a deep sound that echoed through the arena. You mean to fight me with 3 swords you cannot even hold properly? This is an insult to the tournament. Then it should be easy to defeat me, replied. The starting tone sounded. Charged forward with the confidence of a warrior who had never lost to a weaker opponent. His blade swept toward in a powerful horizontal cut that had ended many fights before. Did not try to block with her swords. Instead, she moved. Her body twisted to the side, letting the blade pass within inches of her chest. In the same motion, both of her katanas struck outward at different angles. Managed to deflect one strike with his free arm. The other katana scored a line across his forearm that drew purple blood. The crowd gasped. First blood belonged to the human. Lucky snarled and attacked again. What followed was unlike anything the audience had ever witnessed. Did not fight like any student they had ever seen. She did not plant her feet and trade strikes blade to blade. Instead, she became a storm of motion, her 3 swords creating a sphere of steel around her body that could not penetrate. Every time he attacked, he faced not 1 counter but 3. Every time he tried to trap her in a corner, she slipped away, her blades leaving another cut, another wound on his scales. She fought like a creature with 6 arms, not 2. Her brain somehow tracked 3 different weapons while also reading every movement her opponent made. The unified style said this was impossible. Every master who had ever lived said this was impossible. 10,000 years of combat science said this was impossible. And yet was doing it. 5 minutes into the fight, fell to his knees. His sword arm hung useless at his side, the tendon cut by a precise strike. A dozen shallow wounds covered his body, each one placed exactly where it would cause pain without killing. Stood over him, breathing hard but completely uninjured. Her 3 blades remained ready, waiting for his next move. Yield, she said. For a moment's eyes burned with anger. Then the fire faded, replaced by something like respect. I yield, he said. The arena exploded with noise. Some people cheered. Others shouted questions. Many simply stared in shocked silence at the small human girl who had just done the impossible. Walked back to her corner and put away her swords. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she did not let anyone see. She had won her first match, but this was only the beginning. Her next opponent, seeing what she had done to, from the tournament rather than face her. The one after that, a blade dancer who many had expected to reach the semi-finals, lasted 7 minutes before yielding with a broken wing. By evening, had advanced to the final 4 fighters. The galactic news networks had gone crazy with the story. Every screen in civilization showed images of the human girl with 3 swords. Experts argued about whether what she was doing was real or some kind of trick. Military commanders demanded to know how it was possible. And Grand Master sent a message requesting a private meeting. The universe would never be the same. Grand Master's private chambers were simple and plain. The walls were bare except for ancient weapons from 100 different worlds, each one hanging in its own place of honor. The old sat in a chair that had been built for his 6-armed body, and he watched with all 4 of his eyes as she entered the room. You have made me look like a fool, he said. Stood straight and met his gaze without fear. That was never my intention, Grand Master. No, I believe your intention was simply to win the tournament and show the galaxy what humans can do. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. You have succeeded beyond anything I could have imagined, Every news channel in civilization is talking about you. My fellow masters are demanding explanations that I cannot give them. I am sorry if I have caused you trouble, said. Do not apologize, I am not angry, leaned forward and his voice became softer. I am curious. How long have you been hiding this ability? I have been training with swords since I was 3 years old, replied. My father taught me on Earth, but I only began seriously developing the three-sword style after I came here and learned that it was supposed to be impossible. You heard us say that something could not be done, and you decided to do it anyway. Yes. The Grand Master was quiet for a long moment. His 4 eyes seemed to look through rather than at her, as if he was seeing something far away. I have lived for 900 of your years, he finally said. I have trained warriors from every major species in the known galaxy. I have studied the art of the blade since before your ancestors learned to make fire, and I have never seen anything like what you did today. Because you have never seen a human fight, said. Not really. You have seen humans use your techniques and follow your rules, but you have never seen what we can do when we fight our own way. And what is your way? Thought about how to explain it. Humans evolved on a dangerous world where we were not the strongest or the fastest animals. We survived by being adaptable. Our brains developed the ability to do 2 different things at once with our 2 hands. We can play drums with different rhythms on each side. We can write with one hand while doing something else with the other. This bilateral coordination, my father called it. It is a gift that Earth gave us. Other species have multiple limbs but cannot coordinate them independently, observed. Because their brains evolved differently. Their extra arms work together as a group, not separately. Human brains have 2 halves that can almost work like 2 separate minds. With training, we can learn to control each hand independently. And the third sword, the one you hold in your teeth, allowed herself a small smile. That one requires a lot of practice. The Grand Master stood from his chair and walked to one of the weapons hanging on his wall. It was a sword unlike any had seen before. The blade was made of metal that seemed to shift colors in the light, and patterns ran along its surface that suggested technologies she did not understand. This belonged to a warrior who died before your species existed, said. He was considered the greatest blade master of his age. Do you know why? Shook her head. Because he fought with multiple weapons, 3 swords like you, sometimes 4. The Grand Master turned to face her. He was not the only one. In the early ages of the Confederacy, multi-weapon combat was common. Many species developed styles that used 2 or 3 or even more blades at once. This was not what I'd expected to hear. But you said that no species can dual-wield effectively. You taught that it was impossible. I taught what the Academy teaches, what every academy has taught for the last 8,000 years. His voice grew heavy. But I did not say it was true. Multi-weapon combat was outlawed long ago, not because it did not work, but because it worked too well. Felt a cold understanding begin to form in her mind. They banned it because it was dangerous. They banned it because it was destabilizing. The unified style is controllable. It can be taught in a standard way, tested in a standard way, ranked in a standard way. Soldiers who fight with one blade can be organized into armies that follow orders. But multi-weapon fighters are different. They are unpredictable. They develop their own styles, their own techniques. They cannot be easily controlled. So the Confederacy decided that it was easier to say the technique was impossible than to admit they were afraid of it. The Confederacy decided many things in those early days. They decided how species should fight, how they should think, how they should live. They created stability. They created peace. But they also created stagnation. We have not faced a true threat because we have forgotten how to adapt, how to create new ideas, how to do things that have never been done before. Handed the ancient sword too. It was lighter than it looked, perfectly balanced in her hand. I have watched the recordings of your fights today, the Grand Master said. You are good, very good, but you are not fighting at your full ability. You are holding back. Did not deny it. I did not want to seriously hurt anyone in the early rounds. Tomorrow you fight Os in the finals. He is my finest student, the best blade in a generation. He will not be easy to defeat, even with your unusual style. I know. He has been watching your matches. He has been studying your movements. He will be prepared for your 3 swords. Looked at the old sword in her hands. Then I will have to do something he is not prepared for. Nodded slowly. I thought you might say that. He reached into a cabinet and pulled out 2 more swords of similar design to the first. These were also made by that ancient warrior. He used all 3 together just as you do. They have not been touched in 8,000 years. Why are you giving these to me? The Grand Master's 4 eyes met her too. Because the universe has grown too comfortable with impossibility. Your species is young and stubborn and refuses to accept limits. Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs. You want me to win tomorrow. I want you to show everyone watching what happens when someone refuses to believe that something cannot be done. I want you to break the illusion that has held this civilization back for thousands of years. Placed one of his 6 hands on shoulder. And I want to see, before I die, a fight worthy of the old legends. Gripped the ancient swords. They felt right in her hands as if they had been waiting for her. I will not disappoint you, she said. I know you will not. Now go and rest. Tomorrow you change everything. Left the Grand Master's chambers carrying 3 swords that were older than human civilization. As she walked through the quiet halls of the academy, she thought about what had told her. The truth had been hidden for 8,000 years. Multi-weapon combat was not impossible. It had been forbidden because it was too powerful. And tomorrow, in front of billions of witnesses, she would bring it back. Senna was waiting in their room when returned. Her friend's golden eyes widened when she saw the ancient weapons. Where did you get those? From the Grand Master himself, replied. He wants me to win. Senna made a sound of amazement. The Grand Master is helping you. I thought he would be angry about what you are doing. He is not angry, he is excited. Sat down on her bed and looked at the swords. Senna, everything we have been taught is a lie. Multi-weapon combat used to be common. They banned it because they were afraid of how powerful it was. Afraid of what? Of people who could not be controlled, of fighters who developed their own styles instead of following the rules. Looked at her friend. The Confederacy chose stability over progress. They told everyone that certain things were impossible so that no one would try to do them. Senna was quiet for a long time. Then she said, and you are going to show them that they were wrong. I am going to show them that humans do not accept impossible. We never have. Lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything changes for me, for Earth, for the whole galaxy. Are you scared? Thought about the question. No, I am ready. Outside their window, the stars of the galaxy burned cold and bright. Tomorrow, they would witness something that had not been seen in 8,000 years. A human girl with 3 swords, fighting for the future. The morning of the final match brought the largest crowd in the history of the Tournament of Blades. Important leaders from across the Confederacy had traveled through the night to attend. Military commanders, royal families, and heads of government filled the special viewing areas. Outside the arena, millions more gathered around public screens to watch the broadcast. Across the galaxy, billions waited to see the human girl with 3 swords face the greatest student the Academy had ever produced. Stood in the preparation room looking at herself in a mirror. She wore simple fighting clothes, nothing fancy or decorated. Her brown hair was tied back tight. The 3 ancient swords given to her by Grand Master hung at her side, waiting. Senna stood beside her. How do you feel? Calm, said, and she meant it. The nervousness she had felt before her earlier fights was gone. In its place was a quiet certainty. She had trained for this moment her entire life, even when she did not know it. Oz has been studying your fights all night, Senna said. He knows your patterns. He has practiced counters to your three-sword attacks. Good, replied. I would be disappointed if he had not. You have a plan. Smiled but did not answer. She took one last look in the mirror, then turned and walked toward the arena. The roar of the crowd hit her like a wave when she stepped onto the fighting floor. The great dome above was filled with morning light, and the sand beneath her feet was fresh and clean. She walked to her position and faced her opponent. Oz stood on the other side of the arena. He was tall and proud, his feathered body gleaming in the sunlight. His wings were folded tight against his back, and he held a single blade in his primary hand. His golden eyes watched with respect but also with confidence. Human, he called across the distance between them. I have watched your fights. I understand your style now. Three swords moving independently, creating too many angles to defend against. That is correct, replied. But I have also noticed something. Your style is exhausting. You cannot maintain that level of coordination forever. Eventually you will slow, and when you do, I will be there. Then I suggest you do not let the fight last too long. Oz made a sound that was almost a laugh. I will try to make it quick. The starting tone sounded. This fight was different from the others. Oz did not charge forward like Had. He was patient, careful. He had watched previous matches and learned from the mistakes of those she had defeated. He kept his distance, testing her defenses with quick strikes that did not overcommit, retreating before she could counter with her multiple blades. Adjusted her approach. She could not wait for him to attack. She had to take the fight to him. The two warriors circled each other, then clashed, then separated. The sound of steel meeting steel rang through the arena. The crowd watched in breathless silence as two fighting philosophies met and tested each other. Oz was good. He was very good. His single blade moved with speed and precision that seemed almost supernatural. He had been trained by Grand Master himself, and every technique was perfect. When attacked with three swords, he was ready with counters that forced her back. When she tried to surround him with steel, he found the gaps in her defense and exploited them. First blood went to Oz, a shallow cut across his forearm. Then she scored a strike on his shoulder. Then he cut her leg. Then she sliced his wing. 10 minutes passed, 20, 30. The crowd had never seen a match last so long in the finals. Both fighters were covered in small wounds, both breathing hard, both refusing to yield. At the 60-minute mark, the fight paused as both warriors backed away from each other to catch their breath. You are better than I expected, Oz admitted. His voice was strained with exhaustion. So are you, replied. Her arms ached from controlling three weapons for so long. Her jaw hurt from gripping the blade between her teeth, but she was not finished yet. This cannot go on forever, Oz said. Eventually one of us will make a mistake. Then let us finish it now. Took a deep breath and changed her stance. She had been fighting carefully, using the patterns she had developed in her secret training. But she had not shown everything she could do. She had been saving her best technique for the moment when she needed it most. That moment had come. Oz saw the change in her posture and tensed. What are you doing? Something impossible, said. She charged. What happened next would be discussed and studied for centuries. Did not attack with her usual patterns. Instead, she did something that should not have been possible for any living creature. She threw the wakizashi that she held between her teeth. It was an insane move. Throwing away a weapon in a sword fight was suicide. Every instinct, every training manual, every combat doctrine said it was wrong. But it was also completely unexpected. Oz saw the blade flying toward his face and reacted on instinct. His sword came up to deflect the thrown weapon. For just a fraction of a second, his guard was open. That fraction of a second was all needed. Her two remaining katanas struck faster than the eye could follow. One blade stopped a finger's width from As's throat. The other rested against his heart. The arena was completely silent. As looked down at the swords that could end his life with the smallest movement. Then he looked up at its face. He saw no hatred there, no anger, only calm determination. "I yield," he said, and his voice was filled with something that might have been wonder. "I yield to the impossible human." The crowd exploded with sound, cheering, shouting, crying. The noise was so loud that it seemed to shake the walls of the arena, stepped back and lowered her weapons. Her legs were shaking. Her arms could barely hold the swords, but she stayed standing. Grand Master rose from his seat and walked onto the arena floor. The crowd fell silent as he approached the two warriors. "Morgan of Earth," he announced in a voice that carried to every corner of the arena and every screen across the galaxy. "You have won the tournament of blades. You have earned the title of Blade Supreme." Bowed her head, "Thank you, Grand Master." "But you have done more than win a tournament." Turned to face the cameras, knowing that billions were watching. "You have proven that what we believed was impossible is not impossible at all. For 8,000 years, we have taught that multi-weapon combat cannot be done. Today, a human girl has shown us that we were wrong." He turned back to, "Your species has been in space for only 200 years. You are young, small, and weak compared to many of us, but you do not accept limits. You do not accept impossible, and perhaps that is exactly what this old galaxy needs." Looked out at the crowd, at the cameras, at the universe that was watching her. "Humans will always find a way," she said. "Tell us something cannot be done and we will do it. Tell us something is impossible and we will prove you wrong. This is who we are. This is what we bring to the stars." She raised her two swords high, and the crowd roared again. That night stood on the observation deck of the Academy, watching the stars. Senna stood beside her, and even Grand Master had come to join them. "You have changed everything," said. "Within a year, every academy will be teaching multi-weapon combat. Within 10 years, human fighting styles will spread across the galaxy. You have started a revolution." "Good," said simply. "The galaxy needed one." "What will you do now?" Senna asked. Thought about the future, about Earth, waiting for news of her victory, about her father who had trained her for this moment without knowing it, about all the humans who would follow in her footsteps, pushing the limits of what was possible. "I am going to go home," she said, "and I am going to start a school. I am going to teach other humans what I know, and then we are going to show the galaxy what else we can do." She looked at the stars, at the countless worlds that were now watching humanity with new eyes. "This was only the beginning," Morgan said. "Humans are very good at beginnings." And across the galaxy, a new era had begun. The era when humanity showed the universe that nothing was truly impossible. Not for those stubborn enough to try.